Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first talk of the series on creative confidence, which I'm doing in collaboration with Right Aligned. I'm Teresa, and some of you might know me already. I'm a brand consultant and designer at my own studio, and I also work full-time as a head of design at the Financial Times. I'd just like to preface this talk mentioning the why I'm doing this. Creativity is a human trait, and as such, we all have it. But what we lack sometimes is the confidence to name it, use it, and play with it. Whether it's because of imposter syndrome, being an introvert, or simply doing a non creative job, I want to help others come to terms with their own creative power. So I've connected with people I know in the industry who can share their experiences and let us in their creative world. So with that all said, welcome to the lovely Isabel Sachs, who is the founder of the award-winning and leading career platform for women and non-binary people in the creative industries, I Like Networking. Welcome, Isabel. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Teresa. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Could you, to start with, could you let us know a bit about your career and what led you here?
Yes, it's been quite a, what do they call this? Like a squiggly career. It's like a very non-linear path. So I'm originally from Brazil. I grew up there in São Paulo, and I studied international relations because I thought I was going to be the president. Very low goals. As you can tell, I'm not the president of Brazil. I mean, at least not now. Who knows?
Not yet.
Not yet. But I started working, like helping some friends in like film sets, and I did a bit of like producing work for like some student fashion shows, and ended up getting a job as a gallery assistant slash receptionist in Sao Paulo ages ago. And then kind of started freelancing on the side, doing anything I could do in the creative industries. Like I didn't have any idea what that meant. I had never heard of anyone having creative jobs. Like it was just not a thing. Like you were supposed to get like, go to business school or be a lawyer or a doctor, like, and so this was all kind of like trying and testing. And I got a few really cool opportunities growing up, and then I really worked my butt off. And then in around 2009, 2010, I started my own company in Brazil. It worked mainly across music and theater with artists, and we produced tours and projects, and we worked with big brands as well to produce their events. And so it was a whirlwind and like a big learning curve, like really fast learning curve, I would say, because I was very young. I had no idea what I was doing. Honestly, I have no idea how so many people trust their careers with me. I think we were all kind of learning together as well as we went, which was exciting. And then I sold that company in 2015. I moved to London in 2014 to do a master's, and then sort of started my career from scratch almost. I did 2 placements while I was in my master's, and literally had to build a network from the ground. And it was really hard. I think London, I felt it was like a city that would chew you up, spit you out so fast. Like no one really cared the experience you had before, because it was an UK experience, and I couldn't really explain my background or my skill sets in any way that the language made sense here. Like everything just felt so confusing. Like I remember not understanding, and I tell this to everyone, that how is an account executive the less important role? Because executive office is the most, like officer is the most important. Like I didn't understand the names of the jobs. I was like, what do these people even do? What does this mean? Like it was just a massive gap, let's say. Start sort of from scratch and work here a lot. And then in 2020, I lost my job in live music, shockingly, as you can tell, because I mean, it wasn't really a job. It was like a contract, and the contract obviously I didn't get cut, and it was me and a bunch of people, which doesn't make it any less painful, but we were all kind of in the same boat, and I was talking to a bunch of people who were in similar positions or in worse positions. And then I just got really tired of complaining or feeling like there wasn't enough support for the creative industries. And then we started this program called I Like Networking, which was a mentoring a networking program. And then the first cohort was in mid 2020, and he had really a lot of demand, way more than I had anticipated. And so things just evolved quickly. I have this like producing mindset because for most of my life I was a producer or a project manager, and so I see a problem and I find a way to fix it and address it, and I quickly like put everything into place, you know, like my brain works in budgets, in Excel spreadsheets, because I've been doing this for, I don't know, 18 years now. So yeah, this is how things started. So I run that, and I write sometimes, and I do public speaking and workshops. It's kind of a mixed career to the stage, but yeah, it's how we met, basically. So
yeah,
it's really
absolutely. Yeah. I'm part of the mentoring program this year, and yeah, it's I can really resonate with this stats that you have on your website, saying that 95% of participants reported a massive increase in confidence after taking part in your events or mentoring scheme. It's just, it really impacted the way I feel about myself, and even, you know, having like-minded people around, and people that I struggle with these types of struggles, you know, like imposter syndrome, and, you know, kind of landing from a different country as well and not knowing how things work, not, you know, having to build a network from and a community from scratch is something that is quite challenging, and this is such an amazing platform to do it. But I really want to get your opinion on, how do you think that confidence plays a part in people's success?
Well, I think it's really important because at the end of the day, no one's going to advocate for your success more than you will. Like even your mom, who probably loves you very much, like will be like, they can't do it for you. Like you can have people in your corner, and I think that's essential, but they won't be there fighting your fights or fighting your battles or presenting themselves every day. Like, so it's really important that you do that for yourself, right? That you're able to advocate for yourself. And I think that goes beyond the realm of just the career. Like I would love for everyone who comes to our programs to feel empowered, to advocate for themselves, and to feel confident about fighting for their rights as well, and for their space in the world across different platforms and spaces. And I think, you know, putting yourself out there in a way, like commanding the value that you deserve, basically, in different spheres of life is really important, because there's a lot still that needs to be addressed in the world we live in. We all know that. We all have different backgrounds and different lived experience and different challenges. But if we don't fight for those things, like no one's gonna fight for us either. Like, so, you know, either you're in it or you just give up altogether. And I think we should just be in it, basically. So I think it's really important, but also something that you build. I feel like most of the structures in the world are not meant to make us feel confident, or especially, and I do feel like especially for women, there's still quite a lot of like this confidence gap, because a lot of stuff we do is considered wrong, and if it's a man who does it, it's okay. And we have internalized so many messages, and it's like a battle to go out in the world as a woman. Like I feel like you leave the house and you're already like fighting, like this advertisement for like tea that makes you, you know, whatever, and makes your abs like fit and you whatever and your frame, and you need to love yourself, but also you can't be that way, you can't love yourself that much, and like you're too loud but now you're too quiet, and it's just like all this stuff all the time that you have to contend with to come to terms with what means to be confident to you, you know, what means to have a voice and advocate for yourself. So I don't think there's like one style, you know, but I do think that is essential, basically.
Absolutely, I hear you on all of those points, actually. On that note of, you know, confidence and creative industries, when did you realize that you were creative?
Honestly, I think I realized I was creative when I was a kid, and then I lost it completely. I diminished that because it was considered not serious, or like this is a hobby and I have to have a career, and that's not part of it. And I remember getting a gig to be like the set designer for a short film, and I was horrible at it. Horrible. I ended up doing the whole production of the film instead of doing the set design. I was like, I suck at this thing. Sorry, I'm very bad at this thing. And in my mind, you're only creative if you're doing the creative jobs. Like if you're the set designer, or you're like the cinematographer, or the writer, or the director, because those are the traditionally creative roles that we see, right? Or the artist. And I was much better at doing like the getting stuff done part of things, because I could see things together, and I have this brain that somehow is good at putting things in systems, and and so I
creative
became
problem solving.
Yeah, and I never thought of myself as a creative ever again. Like I just thought, oh, I am like the business or the admin side of things, and I just work with creatives, and that's it. And I didn't realize how much that hurt me after a while. Like I feel like that's what was getting me to burnout, and to feeling like, oh, I need a bit more than this. And of course you are involved in creative decisions as a producer, but you don't get any credit, or you don't get seen that way from from most people. And I think that is, I didn't even see myself in that way, and so that was really damaging, I think, because there is creativity in almost everything that we can do. And it's something that I had to find again in my practice as a producer, and then of writing, just figuring out how I'm going to position myself in the creative industry. So it's something that I think I've gotten much better at identifying, and being like, no, I am a creative person, in the past 2 years, because I realized that finding solutions, as you were saying, problem solving things in ways that even with even small things, like the way you create content for your socials, or the way you're thinking about sharing information is different. Like if I would give you a prompt, you come up with something and I will come up with something else, and that is creativity in itself. And I think it's something that I lost, as in I didn't give myself any credit for so long. And again, it's something that I was like, well, wait a minute. So it's like I had it, I lost, so I sort of lost it, or didn't credit it as what it was, or name it as what it was. And it's so important that we name things, so that we know what they are. And then I'm kind of going back to it and finding other types of creative practices around me, and not just around my work, that I think are important to nourish me. But yeah, I 100% think that I think the idea that a creative is just the maker of things, it's really damaging, I think, even for the people who are the makers, because a lot of makers are also working 9 to 5 on a cafe, and I would say that you're a creative person. And there's all this, I don't know, there's this really famous bestseller book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I think she explains it really beautifully about the power of creativity and how we all have it. And it does not mean that if you don't make your livelihood out of your creativity, you're not a creative person. And that we need to definitely separate those things.
Absolutely. And also, I guess it's all part of this kind of systemic education system as well, that kind of I don't know how it was in Brazil, but at least in Portugal, it was, the arts was kind of always seen as a hobby. And it was always seen as something inferior than, the real subjects. So I guess when you get that drum, and then you get someone who's who's a teacher and tells you, oh, I'm not sure about that drawing that you did, or whatever, and kind of puts you off track. And one little comment can be so damaging, because I completely empathize with you, with that. Oh no, I'm the person who solves things. But that is exactly what creativity is. And it's so good to hear that you're
this is my big pet peeve. If anyone follows me on LinkedIn, this is my rant every other week, is that we don't put enough value in creativity. One of the most important things that have happened in the past, say 20 years, has been the invention of the iPhone, right? Because it really changed the way almost everything that we do, how we do things. And one of the main people who were part of that was a designer, right? It was like Sir Johnny Ive. He's a designer, like he is a creator, and he changed, you know, the tech world, and he changed all of these worlds, and he supports a lot of emerging designers and stuff, because this is it. And people are like, no, it's the engineers and stuff, but like, but it's not just that. And like creativity and innovation, you can't have one without the other. You can't, you
Absolutely.
know, it's just it's the whole rant.
Yeah,
Anytime
yeah.
to rant about that, call me. I love it. I love
I
it.
love it as well. No, I really, and also like it's just as you said, like this kind of dichotomy between the creatives and then the people who do the other jobs. Like it just doesn't make any sense, and that's not how our brains work, and that's not how we're built to do.
No,
And yeah, it's just, but yeah, it is a tough thing to kind of build that confidence in saying, no, I am creative. To nourish my creativity, I do A, B, C, D, you know,
yeah,
and that might not be linked to income, as you said. It's not, has
exactly.
nothing to do. Most,
Yeah.
in fact, I find it more, yeah, lots of nourishing practices like cooking, or I don't know, whatever, journaling, all these things that, you know, really nourish creativity, and they're things that I don't, that they personally, they help me a lot. But thank you so much for sharing that. Just a quick sort of few tips or advices. You mentioned the Elizabeth Gilbert book, which is great, but have you got any tips or tools, I don't know, practices that you use on a daily basis to kind of nourish your creativity, or to kind of tell people who are struggling with their creative confidence to kind of pursue it? And
Yeah, well, the first one is gonna come as no surprise to anyone, is to actually go out and find a supportive network around you, find a community of people that
mm,
inspire you, that you can engage with, that you can have conversations. And I think that is always what has drawn me the most to their creative industries, are the people that are in it, because everyone has, you know, so much to share, and there's so many amazing creatives, and you just
mm,
learn so much from each other. It might just be that someone is like, has the best style ever, and like exposes yourself to, I don't know, like the coolest tattoo artist, or it doesn't really need to be high
mm,
brown, you know, it can be very simple. But I think it does start with conversations, with sharing, with the
mm,
exchange. And I think that is where ideas spark, and where you can have the most engaging, you know, relationships. And I think that's really important, that you don't do everything on your own, and that you have this sort of support team around you. I think having a supportive network is essential in your life, whatever you do, but especially as a creative, because
mm,
of course, as a creative person, I think you doubt yourself a lot, you doubt your process a lot, and you just have to accept that as part of the process, not there was something wrong with you. And the more you can share that with others, you'll see that that's sort of like the common thread. I
mm,
think in terms of basic ideas, it's figuring out how you work best. There's obviously a lot of conversations about how we work these days, but it's literally
mm,
like making notes of what is it that brings you energy. How do you, like, are you someone who focuses really well early in the morning, and so should you wake up an hour earlier and just write for that morning, because that's what you do, because that's what's going to nourish you for the rest of the day? Or no, or do you need to have like a break at lunchtime to go for a walk and go see a gallery every Friday afternoon? Like, it doesn't
mm,
really matter what it is, there's no right answer, but find out what is your like work style, your concentration style, and what is it that you need to nourish yourself, and just make time for it. And that I really mean, like, schedule like a
mm,
time in your calendar to do it. You can then use whatever tool you want. You can use a tracker, a tool, a Pomodoro focus timer, like,
mm,
I like that. The you know, productivity tools are endless. I really like that book, 4,000 Weeks or something, by Oliver
mm,
Burkeman. She's all about like how this obsession with productivity is harming us. And so for anyone who's like
mm,
really into that rat race, like, go read that
mm,
or listen to a podcast with him, whatever. Like,
mm,
there's like a free newsletter he shares, which is also great, called The Perfectionist or something.
mm,
Highly recommend that for you to find your flow and get out of the like to-do list maniac mindset that a lot of us have of like, oh, everyone has the same 24 hours as Beyonce. Like, okay, like don't go there. So yeah, community, find and schedule time for you for the things that nourish you and figure out what works for you. Like no one person is exactly the same. So I think those are my best tips, really.
They are fantastic tips. That's so good about community. I'm so grateful now that we can finally meet in real life and kind of have, these events where you just get, these random chats that will spark these, serendipitous moments that really inspire you. It's just been really lovely to get back to it.
Yeah. And go see things, like I don't know wherever people are listening to this, but the one thing that London does have is a lot of free stuff. And like, I don't know, like all the galleries mostly here are free and most of the museums collections are free. And I don't know if that's where your happy place is. It is to me. And so sometimes I'll just go for a walk and you don't need to go see anything. You could just walk inside the museum for a while and just chill, just be there and just have like brain rest or whatever.
Completely.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, like just go for a walk in a park and listen to music. I don't know, like whatever it is that floats your boat. It doesn't need to be, and I don't think we need to be so serious about it. I think it's just finding your thing and wherever you are, trying to find that place for you.
Yeah, and I think that element of play as well is super important. And yeah, you need to be giving yourself those restful moments in your daily life, as you're mentioning, to kind of nourish yourself, to, even if you're not doing anything, and in fact getting off the rat race and doing something for the sake of it rather than just to achieve or the end result. And that kind of playful thing is something that really, kind of nourishes creativity and this kind of creative problem solving, which is super, which we do all the time, and it's so human.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, Isabel. This has been a true pleasure, and thank you for being my first.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. I hope this is useful, and I really hope to see everything that you're gonna do next in this program. Sounds really exciting. And thank you for supporting us with networking. Really appreciate you coming on board.
It's been a highlight of my year, have to say. Yeah, joining the community and being part of it and mentoring, it's just really, really fulfilling, and happy that I'm part of it. Yeah, really proud.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who's watched this, and I'm always looking for more ways for being creatively confident myself. So hit me up on my socials with any questions, or if you'd like to connect that way. Thank you, and until the next one. Isabel, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Was that okay?
That was brilliant, and we're right on time.
Amazing.
Right, perfect sort of timing. Like, how did you find it?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I love talking. I talk too much though, so I get really like all the talks I go to, people are like, "Oh, stop now!" Like, you stop.
No, I love it. It's been so good.
It's so funny, right? This creative thing, like how you lose that. Like I think every kid starts really creative, and then they get like, I had a teacher who literally threw my art project in the trash. She's like,
"Oh my God."
And I was like completely devastated. I was like, wow.
Oh my God. What is wrong with people?
And like that, like that doesn't like, there's no wrong way to do art. Maybe it's not gonna be hanging at the Louvre anytime soon, but that doesn't mean it's that, Like,
also, it's like the fact that it is their personal taste ranking it. So it is, teachers should know better and should actually make kids aware that actually there's no right or wrong or better or worse drawings. There's your way of doing the drawing and your way of we're not talking about trigonometry or geometry or things that have to be accurate or right when you're like at art school. It's quite often is like that.
even with the arts, like I think I was discussing this the other day with one of my mentors. She works with a lot of classical music, and I love classical music. I still play the piano. I dance classical ballet all my life. You know, like it's what destroyed all my ligaments, but that's a different situation. But I loved it. We had like, it was really luxurious in the fact that it was a very old studio, and they had a live pianist for a long time. So it meant that obviously as kids, you learn a lot about rhythm, so my sister and I both loved like listening to Vivaldi, you know, and Beethoven, because that's what we heard at dance class, and we associated it with the stories of the end of the year show. So we were like, oh, this is the flower song, or this is the whatever song, which is great for your brain to learn rhythm and cadence and all those things that music teaches your brain. And so I wanted to learn the piano because, I mean, I wanted to learn the drums, but my parents were like, absolutely not. We're the house. No. Like we lived in an apartment complex, like not happening. So piano was the commitment, the compromise. And I loved it because he was like the pianist from the ballet class came to give me piano lessons. And I remember the first time I heard the Lion King song, I was 9 when the Lion King came out, I think. And I was obsessed with the Lion King. Everything was Lion King. And my dad then said, you know, Elton John wrote the songs of the Lion King. And I was like, who? And then my dad, who was like big, like old school rock like fan, had like some like vinyl and some laser discs of some old concerts that then he showed me like Queen and Elton, and I was a kid, so I was obsessed. These people wear glitter, they jump, they're like all over the top, and I then became obsessed with Elton John, and I wanted to learn how to play every single Elton John song. And he's a great pianist, right? Like, but it's pop. And that's how I started learning like pop music, and it was like became obsessed with Elton John. It was so funny. My parents were like, this is so weird that you want to old school. And I was just like obsessed. And like I don't see any difference between learning how to play Vivaldi and then learning how to play Elton. And I was like, it doesn't mean that one is more arts than the other. I feel like they created different responses, you know. Absolutely. And it's better what people like. I like it. Like whatever floats your boat, do that.
Yeah, completely.
But there's so much right and wrong in the education. This is right. This is arts. This is not arts. And you're like, well, who are you? To say? Let the people enjoy it, whatever it is. Like
Yeah. And even in the creative industries, like you're creative because you have design on your name, but you're not creative because you have manager on your name. It just doesn't make any sense. And you meet really creative people who are not designers or illustrators or like in conventional like artistic sort of pursuits, and then you meet people who have those titles that you're like, oh, you really struggle with like playing and, you know, throwing things out there because you're so worried about everything that you've learned and applying those things. It's actually quite like castrating, that way of
I really appreciate that you're doing this series. So let me know when it's out and we can share, because I think a lot of people need to hear those things, and I think it's important. Like I would have loved to have had those conversations when I was growing up, and I'm like, okay,
that's what I was thinking. I was like, if I had someone like when I was, I don't know, 15, told me, actually, you can be whatever you want, like don't worry too much about this academia thing, because it doesn't mean that, you know, it doesn't give you more value. It's just, you're just kind of doing it to please your parents. And it would have saved me a bit of time.
Me too. And my parents did what they could, you know, they were doing their best. They're both like children of other immigrants that are immigrants who ran to Brazil because of the war. And so for them, you have to be very safe because everything can be taken away from you at any point. So the idea you're going to dedicate your life to anything artistic obviously doesn't seem like the best idea, you know, if you don't know how you're going to eat tomorrow. So I get it, you know, but I think the education systems are definitely broken because they're not keeping up with times, and it's just like not even what people need to know anymore being thought. Anyway, but Thank you so much
Oh,
for having me. It was a
thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you so, so much, Isabel.